I just finished messing around with the Lego city. Like, we were shifting everything around. Now we've got to build a bunch of roads and a bunch of park space, which is good. I think it's great. I think the changes are going to look fantastic in the end. But am I going to continue working on that today, or am I going to pull a classic Bricksie maneuver here and shift gears into something else? Continue working on the zoo, maybe. That's what Mrs. Bricksie's doing right now. She's working on further developing the changes that we made the other day with the raised walkway here. So she's building the guardrail for that all the way along on either side, and also on the angled portion as well. And she's also tiling off the top there. We're probably going to mix in some tan studs so we can pose minifigures and break up that color a little bit. So it's going to be tan and also dark orange. And then we've got to work on the little mini walls between the glass panels around the gator enclosure, and then cap that off. So we want to try and get these changes done today, and also try and get this all tiled off as well, so we can get this half of the zoo like pretty close to completion. That's our goal. Of course, you can always make more improvements, so can't really classify it as done, but we want to try and get it there, you know? And I'm thinking maybe I should work on those changes that we came up with quite some time ago in the lion enclosure as well. There's been a lot of comments saying it's too tan, you can't see the lions, they're blending in a little bit too much, got to change that up a little bit. But didn't do that because I knew we were making some significant changes to this area anyway, so I guess I'm going to take care of that while Mrs. Bricksie continues to take care of this. First things first, strip this area down. There's actually quite a few pieces packed into this corner here. Check it out. We got all this brick, slopes, some vegetation, not enough of it, and some plates. The next thing I did was frame some more rock work, and this rock work branches off the back wall there and goes up against the aviary wall, and it comes out into the enclosure. And when I was building that, I made sure to leave a little opening right there that you can see is framed with some slopes and inverted slopes. And there's a little hidden interior there. There's no interior details yet, but that's where our lions are going to be able to sneak through this little hole and go hang out in the lion den. So rather than building it into the mountain, I decided to build it right into the enclosure. I could build it right into the mountain. I did that with some of the other animals here, but why not change it up and do something a little bit different? You know, we've got a cave for the polar bears and also the penguins, and the lions actually have it built right into their enclosure, which I think is pretty neat. You'll see some funky rock work coming off the edge here. That's because I built the top for it, and the top has something pretty cool. It's 18 by 20 studs, so that left me room for lots of rock work, which will blend up against the back wall there. And I started adding some green details so we can actually see those lions. And check it out. We've got a little pride rock coming off the side, and it's supported by these inverted slopes and the curved slopes. And it's pride rock. We've got it at an angle there, and you can see the rock was actually built using some interesting pieces. That's like a airplane piece, I'll call it, I guess, like the fuselage, and also the double inverted slope, and then some curved plates on top. And the way we mounted it to the lid of the rock was actually by using a turntable under here, and it's one of the large 4x4 turntable brick and plates. So we could get it at that cool angle, and then we just framed it using various brick and plate. And this wedge plate here, let's just pop this back on where it belongs like that. This wedge plate and these inverted slopes perfectly blend in the parts that create the angle. So it's sort of embedded right in the roof. And I made sure to leave a 1-stud groove going around the entire perimeter, and then that's blent in using 1x and 2x brick, and also slopes and wedge plates and all that. So now this just sits there and it blends in quite nicely. So now the lions have a cave, they've got a larger rock that they can sit on, and something that resembles Pride Rock. There you go, much better. Look at that, we've got Mrs. Lion popping out of the den there, and Mr. Lion on top of the rock. I want to start with the ramp that leads up to the raised walkway there. It's fully tiled off in dark orange, and then there's some studs in dark tan. I think that color combination works quite well. Then we have the wall to the right of it here, and that wall is sand green, olive green, tan, and that matches the pillars between the evenly distributed glass around the gator display, which has been tiled off as well in tan, and you can see some more little miniature walls between the glass there. And you'll also notice that this is fully tiled off. More on that in a bit. Let's take a look at this ramp. So it is supported by the walls. There's a viewing glass right there, and I can just remove it by just sort of peeling it off. And beyond that, it actually just floats. So if I remove that, we can see the ramp is actually attached to the flat section or the landing, and this can articulate downward. I did that by using some Technic pieces, and those Technic pieces has a pin that runs through them, and it starts right there and then runs through, and then it's capped off in the end with that bushing. And then there is another one of those Technic pieces right here which is holding the other side of it. It's one of the brown Technic pins. And then I put the 1x2 rail plates on the top, so it sort of blends in the gap, and you can see you can hinge downward. And when it's positioned on the little mini wall that I put here, it works out perfectly, so it makes contact with the ground and it's fully supported. So I thought that was pretty cool. We got like this weird slope right here. This is going to make sense when we push, or when we put the angled part connecting the two different sections. So we have the landing there, and as you can see, there's a guardrail. Whoops, sorry, my camera's going crazy. But there's a guardrail right there, guardrail on that side, and then there's a handrail coming down the side. So we did that with the 1x2 connector pieces, a plate, and then a tile on the face of it, and it comes up with droid arms, and bars are used just to create the railing going all the way around. And you can see the other straight part right here. We've got viewing windows underneath, and the tile color matches, and that guardrail matches as well. So guests can stand up here and check out the ostriches and giraffes, and camel. And then underneath, you can see it's also tiled off. And you might recognize the pattern. We did the same pattern in the amusement park, but it was light gray with blue 1x1 tiles, and this time we went dark tan and 1x1 plates in light gray, just so we can position minifigures. But it looks like I forgot one plate right there. Uh-oh. But yeah, I think this looks good for the gators. And the thing that pulls it all together, of course, is the angled section of the elevated walkway. And we actually made it more than just a rectangular walkway. Of course, it has the 45-degree angles on both sides, so it can align with those other raised sections. But then it also has this part that branches off with those odd-shaped plates, and the arches built into that wall. And the wall has some snot bricks on it, so we're able to add some vegetation to it. And then there is the 1x1 cylinders there, just because the brick, like the right angle of the brick, was actually colliding with the wall, and it was actually offsetting the angle when it was in position. So this is actually held in by a jumper. It goes right on that stud there, like with the rounded 1x2 plate. The jumper's right there. I've got this little mini wall that we can remove, and that is going to allow us to place this in. Just like that. And that jumper is all it really needs. Like, it's held in position pretty good there. It is also resting on this wall here, which is tiled off, and you can see the angles, they work out pretty good. Unfortunately, we don't have the right tiles to get in here. I think we would need triangular tiles to eliminate all the tan, so we'll have to order those in the dark orange color. We use some of these on the other side, but we don't have adequate tiles to do it perfectly. But hey, It looks pretty good, and it's definitely a nice pop of color in this region of the zoo. And it's just great that we have an elevated area, so now people can come check out the giraffes like pretty much at eye level, and maybe feed them as well. So there's going to be a bunch of different stories that we can tell in here. I think the ramp worked out quite nicely. It's at a really nice grade there, and this just really turned out quite well. You know, it's sort of like the old zoo, but way better in my opinion, because it's a smaller section of elevated walkway, and there's also an angle built into it. And I think the guardrails look pretty cool. And then the lions, they've had some vegetation added to their enclosure along the top here. So I bulked that up a little bit, added some more vegetation to the arches that were branching off the side of the aviary there, changed up some of the plate color, and just added more groupings of vegetation. And of course we can add more as well. I know maybe there's not enough, but I think it looks pretty cool. I think it sort of gets the job done, and I like it. Look at this guy. He's checking out the other line up there on Pride Rock. I think it's neat. It's pretty sweet. You know, we could build a bigger elephant enclosure. I was thinking about moving this over just to give the elephants more space. But the theory is they can go through those doors there and head underneath the mountain. They have a large indoor spot. I know the indoor spot isn't built yet, but eventually I'll get around to building that. So technically they have more space inside the mountain, if that makes sense. And I think it's better to have a larger enclosure for the lions because there's more fun, or like you can have more fun stories or just better stories with lions because they can have more elevation. And you know, a Pride Rock, it's not like you'd put an elephant way up there on Pride Rock. That would look a little bit funny. But there we go, everybody. We've got an angled walkway there, fully tiled off with the guardrails and a Pride Rock. I think the POV of the zoo is coming along nicely. Pretty happy that I was able to get a bunch of the tiling done as well. And now we just need to continue this way into the center of the zoo and into the bears, tiger, black panther, get that fully tiled off, work on some of the rock work back here on top of the Arctic area, place it in the city, of course, and then add more vegetation going around the entire fence line. We're going to do that last just because that will sort of get in the way as we move it. But yeah, happy with that. Definitely a good upgrade for the zoo. Let me know what you think by commenting below. Please remember to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for some more great stuff. Farewell.